Hey everybody, this is Bill. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking college football. We're going to look at the Week 6 top 25 that we have. We're also going to take a look at who dropped out of last week's top 25, and we're going to look at some teams that are trying to get into next week's top 25. And then again, as we said, we're going to go over this week's top 25, let you know who the best teams in the country are. So come along. Okay, so looking at the teams that fell out of last week's top 25, we look right at the Miami Hurricanes. They're also the first team looking to get back in. But Miami, home to Georgia Tech, who had just lost embarrassingly to Bowling Green. Miami had Georgia Tech beat. All they had to do was kneel on the football, let the clock run out, but they ran a play, they fumbled, and then on not only that, and a lot of people are talking about this fumble. Was it a real fumble? Be that as it may, they fumbled. Georgia Tech got the ball and threw a 55-yard touchdown pass. They had a player get behind the Miami defense and score a touchdown and win the football game. Very embarrassing defeat for Miami. Good grief. We thought Miami was better this year. We kind of think they are, at least talent-wise on the field, but they still make the dumb mistakes that cost them ball games, and this is a clear example of that. So the Hurricanes dropped from 14th out of the top 25. They're the first team looking to get in. Now, Wyoming is also looking to get in. That's a strong football team. They are winning football games. Remember, they beat Texas Tech in the opener. They are a good football team out there. Wyoming looking good. Now, Wisconsin is starting to show some strength. We think Wisconsin's, they're decent in the Big Ten West, maybe the favorite over there. But they're not a real, top team in the country. But they're playing better. We're going to see what they got as they come down the stretch here. Now, Maryland lost at Ohio State. A lot of people lose at Ohio State, okay? But Maryland's pretty decent. Got a great quarterback, Tagovailoa. Brigham Young's in there. Fresno State. Air Force is a good football team. We like Colorado. They're overachieving under Dion. It was a great story. Kind of faded a little bit. But Colorado, they did not play well last week. Barely got by Arizona State and had some chicanery with the quarterback, acting like he never won a football game before. I was disappointed to see that. We got Colorado looking at them in there. Iowa, the Hawkeyes, they got quarterback problems. They have offensive problems, but they are 5-1. West Virginia, it's a great story. Neil Brown got the Mountaineers looking good out there. Texas A&M, that's a decent football team. They had a lot of talent coming back. I believe they had 20 starters coming back, but they are not achieving where they hoped they would be, but they're still a good football team. And the Kansas Jayhawks, that's a good football team out there. Lance Leipold really doing a fantastic job in Lawrence. They got some things going on out there, so we're excited to see them. So those are our teams that are looking to get in next week. And our team that fell out, the Miami Hurricanes, they fell out in embarrassing fashion. Now, before we move on to look at the top 25 for this week, we want to let you know you can join us over on Facebook at the Color Pageantry. We're not a big page. We don't have a heck of a lot going on over there, but we do post some college football items. Think you would be interested in those if you were with us. So please feel welcome to do so. That's over on Facebook at the Color Pageantry. At number 25, we've got the Clemson Tigers. Now, they played well at home in a loss against Florida State. This was them struggling to stay on the national stage. They played very well, but they did lose the ball game in overtime. So we thought Clemson had things righted. We liked what we saw from their quarterback, but boy, they struggled to get at home against Wake Forest this past week. They got the W, though, so they're still in the top 25. Now, Kentucky blasted at Georgia. Well, a lot of people get blasted at Georgia. Georgia looks very good. Kentucky could not hang with the Bulldogs, but that doesn't mean Kentucky's not a good football team and a good program. So they remain 24th. Missouri, home to LSU, had a big opportunity there, led most of the football game, ended up losing to LSU. That's not a terrible thing. Missouri 5-1, they're ranked 23rd. Tennessee's 4-1. Tennessee has a lot ahead of them, a lot of opportunity. That loss to Florida stings in our mind. I mean, that was just atrocious. They got killed by a football team that doesn't turn out to look very good. Notre Dame is 21, bombed now against Louisville. Louisville's undefeated. They hadn't looked great, but boy, they handed it to Notre Dame. Notre Dame might just be a little battle fatigued at this time, but we still think they're a good football team. They're ranked 21st. And LSU is 20th. Went to Missouri. That's a tough place to play there in Columbia. They were behind most of the game, as we just mentioned, but LSU, Jaden Daniels, they came back. They put about 50 points on the board, and they won the ball game. So LSU's still very dangerous, very talented, but they can get them in the way of themselves as well. But LSU, they're 20th. 19th, we have Washington State. Now, they played 18th ranked UCLA and lost 25-17. UCLA, with 16 second half points, wins the ball game. And both of these teams are good. Now Ward at quarterback is a veteran for Washington State. He makes things happen. And young Dante Moore, the freshman from UCLA, he had 290 yards passing and a touchdown in this victory. So both of these teams are pretty good, and we find them UCLA 18th, Washington State 19th. Utah, another team from the Pac-12, very strong in the trenches, still waiting on their quarterback Cam Rising, see if he can get back. But Utah keeps winning anyway. We'll see how they continue to do down the stretch against a very tough schedule. Duke is in at 16th. They're from the ACC, looking pretty good. Their only loss, of course, to Notre Dame late. Louisville is into the top 25 at 15th with their huge victory over Notre Dame, convincing victory. Louisville, under new coach Jeff Brom, they've got some offensive firepower, so they're a team to keep your eye on. The Cardinal, their schedule is not overwhelming, so they could continue to win a bunch of football games. So keep your eye on Louisville, who enters the top 25 at 15th. Oregon State comes in at 14th. They had a big win at Cal. They put 50 points on the board. Oregon State looking good out there in the Pac-12. Ole Miss beat Arkansas. That's a good football team, Ole Miss. We're watching them. We don't know if they're a national championship contender. We really don't think they are, but they certainly are a team that can finish 8th to 15th, and that's right where we find them. Ole Miss looking good. North Carolina bombed Syracuse at home. Syracuse is not that bad, and Drake May really looked good this week at quarterback for North Carolina. The All-American candidate, he looked very strong, and this was the best game North Carolina's played, so they may be heating it up down the stretch here, so keep your eye on the Tar Heels. Southern Cal is 11th. They looked not so good, and they better get it going because they play Notre Dame this week. Now, that's a huge rivalry. That's going to be a night game on national television. Southern California and Notre Dame, a big game. Southern Cal better get going. They got the great quarterback. They don't have much else, it doesn't look like, but we'll see if they can get it rocking and rolling. And Alabama over Texas A&M, a big game there for the Crimson Tide. Jalen Milroe looking good. So Alabama's 10th. Everything remains ahead of Alabama if they can keep winning, and buddy, they probably will. Texas comes in 9th. They fell to Oklahoma late at the Red River Rivalry. So Texas, the great season that they had lined up, now they've got a loss. They'll probably play Oklahoma again in the Big 12 title game. Penn State continues to roll. They're 8th. They've got Ohio State next week. We'll find out more at that game. Oklahoma up to 7th with their big victory over Texas at the Cotton Bowl at the Texas State Fair. OU looking better this year, much better this year. We've been saying it, and there you have it. You got proof. Oregon is 6th. They're looking good behind Bo Nix, and they've got a big one this week, 3:30 at Washington. Boy, that's going to be a good one. Ohio State is 5th. They got the victory over Maryland. They just keep winning. We'll see what goes on. The Buckeyes with Penn State next week, as we mentioned. Florida State had a tough game against Virginia Tech at home. It kind of surprised us, but Florida State keeps winning. They're 6-0. They've got the second longest winning streak in the nation next to Georgia. Washington, the Huskies, they're fantastic. Offensive firepower everywhere. They've got the game against Oregon. The nation will have their eyes on that football game, and the winner of that game is really looking good. We like Washington. Michigan is number 2. That's a complete football team. PJ Fleck of Minnesota called them a boa constrictor, that they just suffocate you. And that's a good assessment by PJ, because that sounds just like Michigan. Very tough in the trenches. They do the things that win football games. The Wolverines, they're number 2. And Georgia with their huge bombing of Kentucky. When Georgia wants to be there, they are. And they're nasty. And the Bulldogs, so they're number 1 until somebody knocks them off. They're the 2-time defending national champion. Their schedule is not strong. So they're not going to get knocked off, I don't believe. The earliest opportunity that could happen, I believe, is the SEC title game. Georgia, just a solid football team, and they remain the number 1 team in the nation, in our opinion, and many other people's opinion. Georgia, number 1. Well, there you have it, folks. That's our top 25 for Week 6. Georgia remains number 1. A little bit of shakeouts. Wasn't a ton of great games last week. Not a ton of great games this week, but the 2 that we really mentioned, Southern Cal, Notre Dame, and Washington, Oregon. Those are the ones we want to keep our eyes on this week. So it's going to be a fun week. Listen, somebody's going to get beat. somebody in this top 15 or so, they're going to get beat. Other than the two games we just mentioned, somebody will get upset. We got our eyes all on it. We're going to be watching it all. Drop us some comments. Let us know, is somebody in here, we got somebody wrong? So you think somebody's a lot better, or you think we got somebody ranked way too high, somebody missing? Drop us some comments. Let us know what you think. And again, do follow us over on Facebook at the Color and Pageantry if you're so inclined. We do post some college football items over there that you may find interesting. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us here today. We'll be back next week with our top 25. We'll talk about who gets beat, who had a big game, and where we're at next week. So enjoy the games this week, and we hope to see you with us again next week. Y'all take care now.